Welcome to the Video Professor's series of computer learning tapes, the nation's #1 computer trainer. We'll take you step by step through learning to use your computer software. On the screen now are some other tapes available in our series. When using these tapes, we suggest you watch them in their entirety, then go back with your computer and practice each step. In keeping with the Video Professor's dedication to giving you the best lesson possible, we have packed these tapes with information and sometimes move at a pace that is faster than you will be able to follow along with as you are working with your computer. Remember, you can always pause or rewind the tape to learn each part. Now let's get started. And welcome to my lesson on Excel 5.0 for Windows. This application is one of the most popular spreadsheet programs in use today. It makes working on a business or home accounting project a snap. Although this tape is intended for people who are new to Excel, it will also be useful to veteran Excel users who are upgrading to version 5. And with this version of Excel, you get all the advantages of the Windows environment. For example, you can take text from a word processing program, graphics from another program, and numbers and charts from Excel, and combine all these sources to create a well-balanced, professional-looking document, all without a lot of complicated file exchange procedures or stopping and starting programs. Because Excel works within the Windows environment, it is important that you understand how Windows works. If you don't, I strongly suggest you see my tape Learning Windows before starting this lesson. I also assume you have a basic understanding of DOS for this lesson. And again, if you need a review, see my tape Getting Started with Your Personal Computer. Before going any further, I'd like to introduce Suzanne, my student helper for this lesson. Simply follow along with her and you'll be using this program in no time. In this lesson, we will learn basic Excel spreadsheet skills, such as entering and editing data, creating labels and formulas, formatting your spreadsheet, working with the toolbar icons, plus saving and printing files. At the end of this lesson, I'll show you how to create a chart based on data within an Excel spreadsheet. Later in this lesson, we'll save our work to disk. Suzanne and I will save to a floppy disk to avoid cluttering up the hard drive. I suggest that you too have an empty formatted diskette on hand to save your Video Professor results too. And to get those results, you need a mouse and a keyboard for this lesson. Keyboard use is necessary to input new data into Excel spreadsheets. And you will need a mouse to access the commands on Excel's toolbars, plus other tools and shortcut commands. The commands given in this lesson will be a mixture of mouse and keyboard. The commands given will be what I believe to be quicker or more appropriate for any given situation. As you gain experience with Excel, you will develop your own preferences. Okay, everyone, at this point I'm going to assume you have Excel 5.0 installed on your system. If you haven't done this, stop the tape and install the program on your system now. It is a simple procedure. Everyone else, make sure you are in the Windows Program Manager and have the Microsoft Office Group window open as you see on our screen. Suzanne, double-click on the application icon to start Excel. If you don't have a mouse, use your arrow keys to select the Excel icon if it isn't already selected. Then press your Enter key. When you open Excel for Windows, a new spreadsheet is automatically opened. The screen has features familiar to Excel users and features that Windows users will recognize also. The screen you see before you is the out-of-the-box Excel screen display you get right after installing and opening Excel for the first time. These display features are default settings, which Excel automatically sets for you during installation. If your screen display differs from this, don't worry. Someone else may have been working in Excel and has changed the screen layout. There is nothing wrong. People just have different ways in which they like to see their display. You'll soon see how to change the display to match your mode of working. As we explore the Excel screen, I'll give commands for suggested changes to your display. By the end of this section of the lesson, everyone should have basically the same look on screen. Now let's begin our voyage by looking at basic screen features. At the very top of the screen is the title bar where you see the name of your program, followed by the name of the file you are actually working in. Because this is a new spreadsheet, it is called Book 1. On the left side of the title bar is the Windows Control menu. Suzanne, press your Alt and Space bar keys together to open it. The Control menu contains various commands to control the size and position of the Excel window on the Windows desktop. It also allows you to close Excel or switch to another program using the Windows Task Swapper. Suzanne, press your escape key to close the control menu. On the right-hand side of the title bar are the window sizing buttons. These are the mouse command equivalents to the sizing commands in the control menu. You should recognize these as well as those in the control menu from my Windows tape. If your Excel application window does not fill the computer screen, use the control menu's Maximize option or click on the Maximize button to give yourself a full screen view. If your window is maximized, the up pointing arrow will not appear on the title bar. You will have the up and down restore button. It will have an up and down arrow on it. Suzanne, click on the restore icon in the right corner below the restore icon on the Excel title bar. This reduces the size of the worksheet window. You can also press your Alt and Dash to open this Windows control menu and press R to restore. Now look at the change on your screen. What we just did was reduce the workbook window from maximum size. The workbook window is inside the Excel application window. In general, the data you enter is stored and displayed in the workbook, while the power to manipulate that data comes from the application window. The Excel window frame appears on the Windows desktop. The Excel window is the program or application window. The document window is called a workbook in Excel. It's also called a spreadsheet. The application window is sometimes called the parent and the spreadsheet the child. You must have an application program or parent open before you can have a document or child spreadsheet. There may be multiple children all running within the parent window. That is, you can have several spreadsheet documents open within the Excel application. Now let's look at the title bars for the document and for the application. Our application title bar now reads Microsoft Excel, and the document title bar reads Book 1. So not only did the windows separate, the titles did too. Since the application or parent window has the power, let's look at its layout first. The outer or parent window has 5 areas that we need to recognize. We've already taken a look at the first line, the program title bar. The menu bar is the second line of the Excel application window, where pull-down menus give access to all of Excel's commands. The first 2 menus are the standard File and Edit, followed by some menus that are specific to Excel functions. The standard Help command is in its usual position at the farthest right-hand side of the menu bar. Suzanne, click on Edit to see the commands available in this pull-down menu, or hold down the Alt and E key to open it. As we just demonstrated, you simply point and click with the left mouse button to select a menu option. When the menu is open, a single click on the desired command activates that command. As an alternative to the mouse, to select a command from the keyboard, you must first open the menu by holding the Alt key and typing the underscore letter in the menu name. Once the menu is open, you can use your arrow keys to highlight a command. Then press the Enter key to activate it. Or you can point to the command with the mouse and click to activate it. Windows is rich in choices to accomplish the same result. You can also select these commands without opening the menu. For instance, you can press the keyboard combination of Control and X to accomplish the same thing as pulling down the menu and selecting the Cut command. Or simply type the underscored letter of the desired command name, this time without the Alt key. You'll notice that many of the commands in Excel will have these shortcut combinations. All must be used without a menu being open. Also, some commands such as Fill have a small arrow on the right edge of the menu. This opens another menu from which you can select a more specific command choice. The 3 little dots following a command are called ellipses, like you see with Find, Replace, and Go To. They indicate that additional information or choices are available for that command. These choices are stored in dialog boxes that will appear when you choose that command. Suzanne, click on the Go To command so we can look at a sample dialog box. The Go To command, just like it says, is a way to move quickly from one location to another within the cells of the workbook. The choices in this dialog box will make much more sense when you have finished this lesson. For now, just click Cancel or press the Escape key to close the dialog box. As I mentioned earlier, the Help menu is on the far right side of the menu bar. Let's take a look at just a few of those features right now. Suzanne, click on the Help menu. Once open, select the Contents option. Notice that the shortcut key for Help is the F1 key. If your Help window is too small to see the contents easily, drag the edge of the window to resize it. Now click on the Using Microsoft Excel heading with your mouse. Notice how it turns into a little hand. On the next screen, click on the Essential Skills heading, and a whole new set of choices appears on screen. Now position the pointing finger on the first line. What's new? And click. As you see, each choice gives you more and more specific items about the topic you want help with. You can do this with any subject we've seen in Help so far. Suzanne, pull down the Help Windows File menu and select Exit to return to the Program window. Now let's go back to the Help menu. Suzanne, this time open it by pressing the F1 key. Now select the Search button by pressing the S key or clicking on Search. The dialog box works like an alphabetical index to all the topics in Help. To find help on a specific subject, just type the word. Let's take a look at Go To, Suzanne. Type G-O. There it is. The list moved to show the selection containing the goes. Just keep typing to be more specific in your choice. Suzanne, add a space, a T, O, a space, and C. And now the Go To command is highlighted. Now click on the Show Topics button, or press the Enter key, and a second list now appears at the bottom of this window. It gives specific topics related to the highlighted command. As you can see, Help allows you to explore detailed questions about Excel quickly and easily. Now let's get back to the workbook. Click on the Close button, then pull down the File menu and select Exit again. The Windows title bar and menu bar will always appear on your screen, but you can choose whether or not to display the other features such as the toolbars or status bar. Click on the View menu, Suzanne, and you will see choices for Formula Bar, Status Bar, and Toolbars. The check marks next to Formula Bar and Status Bar indicate those features are currently active. You'll also notice the Toolbars command has an ellipsis, which means we have a dialog box full of toolbar options to choose from. Suzanne, do you see the white bar with the A1 displayed in it? That's the Formula Bar. It is partially covered by the pull-down menu. Suzanne, point to the Formula Bar and click. Notice that the white bar disappeared. Now pull down the View menu again by selecting Control-V, and notice that the check mark is missing. Click on the Formula Bar again. There, the Formula Bar appears back on the screen. Remember, the check mark indicates the active feature. You can use the mouse or keyboard to toggle these features on and off. Now viewers, click on the View menu to verify that Formula Bar has a check mark on your screen. As you can see, you'll have to reopen the menu each time you do a command. Now click on Toolbars. The dialog window shows a list of Excel toolbars. There should be an X beside the top two, Standard and Formatting. Suzanne, click on the box next to Formatting so the X disappears. Click OK and look at your screen. Now there's only one toolbar. We've turned off the Formatting toolbar. Reopen the View menu and select Toolbars again. Click next to Formatting to mark it again. Make sure there are X's in only the top two boxes for Standard and Formatting toolbars. Then click on OK. Just below the menu bar is the Standard toolbar. Move your mouse slowly along the bar without pushing any of the mouse buttons, Suzanne. See how the icon shows its name as the pointer rests on it. The Standard toolbar has buttons to Open, Save, Print, Print Preview, and Operate Spell Check, as well as some of the function controls for spreadsheet formulas. On the far right side of this bar are the Tip Wizard and Help buttons. These are good buttons to remember when you want to learn handy shortcuts or when you have questions about operations you are performing within a spreadsheet. Suzanne, pull down the File menu and select Save As. Here's the dialog box we will use to save a new file to disk. Remember what it looks like and press Cancel to close it. Now click on the third icon on the Standard toolbar, the one with the little disk icon on it. And we are given the same dialog box. The menu command and the toolbar button do exactly the same thing. The Save icon we just selected normally just saves any changes after we have named a file. However, since we haven't named this file yet, we are given the Save As dialog box. We aren't ready to use this, so click on Cancel to close this dialog box. At the right side of the Standard toolbar is the Zoom control window. Just so we're all looking at the same size spreadsheet, click on the arrow at the right edge of that window and then click on 200%. See how the screen display just got larger? Now, just so we're all looking at the same size spreadsheet, click on the arrow at the right edge of that window again and then click on 100%. This is always the default setting for Excel. The next row is the formatting bar, which is full of icons and will show name tags as you point to an item. As you can see, the formatting bar is filled with items such as font and font size, page alignment, numeric style, borders and colors. When we begin building a spreadsheet, we will use this toolbar to change the appearance of the data within our workbook. Just to be sure we're working in the same font and size, I'm going to show you how to change your font size for the entire worksheet. The first thing we need to do is click on the small square just above the row number 1 and just to the left of the column letter A. Suzanne, click on that square. See how the entire spreadsheet becomes highlighted? That tells us that the changes we are about to make will affect the entire spreadsheet. On the far left side of the formatting toolbar is the font and font size windows. Suzanne, click on the arrow next to the right of the font window. The option window that appears lists all the fonts available to Suzanne's installed version of Excel. Click on the Arial font, Suzanne. Now click on the arrow to the right side of the font size window and click on the font size 12. That's great. Now we know that all the text that we will type into our spreadsheets will all look the same. Now click inside the white rectangle to deselect the worksheet. By selecting the entire worksheet before you start to build a spreadsheet, it guarantees that every cell will have that specific format. You can always stay with the default font and font size that is set for us. Below the formatting toolbar is the formula bar. It gives information about the active cell in the spreadsheet and offers many ways to enter text and formulas into the cells. The left side of this line tells us that the active cell right now is A1. The numbers that show on the left side refer to the rows that go across the worksheet, and the letters that show on the top refer to the columns that go down the worksheet. Suzanne, type your name. See how the letters appear in the formula bar area called the input area? Now don't press the return key just yet. When you started typing, Suzanne, 3 more symbols also appeared on the input line. The X is the cancel button, which works like the escape key. The check mark is the confirm button, which works like the enter key. When you finish typing, you can click on the confirm button or just press the enter key. If you didn't like the typing, you can click on the X to cancel or press the escape key. The FX button is the function wizard, which allows you to automatically insert pre-formatted functions that are common and used often in spreadsheet work. At the bottom of the application window is the status bar. This bar gives us more detailed descriptions of the toolbar icons, menu commands, and any operation in progress. Suzanne, move your mouse to the bottom of the undo button. That's the backward curving arrow near the center of the standard toolbar. The name tag gives us a simple description of this icon. Now look at the left side of the status bar. It tells us that this icon undoes the last action or command. Now move your mouse pointer back down into the workspace, Suzanne. The left side of the status bar now tells us that Excel is ready to accept data. As we work within the workbook window, the status line will also tell us if we are entering or editing a cell's contents. The status line serves another useful purpose as well, Suzanne. Pull down the File menu. Now look at the status line. It displays an explanation of the highlighted command, New. Now press the down arrow key to move through the menu choices. Don't try to use your mouse here, it will activate the command. Notice that as each command is highlighted, a short description of its actions appear on the status line. Whenever you're in doubt as to what an option does, just highlight it and read the status line. Suzanne used the right arrow key to move over to the Edit menu. Notice that some commands on this menu are dark and others are pale. This is a standard Windows clue about which commands are available to use right now. At this point in our work, the commands in darker type are available for use. The pale ones aren't. Press your escape key twice to close this menu. In the middle of the screen is the actual rows and columns spreadsheet or workbook. The numbers on the left indicate the row number, and the letters at the top identify the column. The A1 address displayed on the left side of the formula bar indicates the active cell is in column A, row 1. If you were to enter data now, it would appear in that cell. Suzanne, click on cell E11. That's the cell where row 11 and column E intersect. Now look at the left side of the formula bar. That's the address of the cell you just clicked on. Now drag the mouse to cell H13 and keep holding the mouse button. The selection indicator displays the number of columns and rows in the current selection. In this case, it tells us you have 3 rows and 4 columns chosen. When you let go of the mouse button, the entire area stays highlighted with the first cell active, and the address is visible in the formula bar. This is called a range or block of cells. Blocks can be any size, but they must always be rectangular and consist of adjacent cells. Now that we've seen the separate screen features, Suzanne, let's enlarge this workbook window to maximum size again. We could click on the Maximize button in the upper right-hand corner of this window, but instead of using the mouse, let's use this Windows Document Control Panel. Press your Alt and hyphen keys to open it. Then press your X key to maximize it. The two windows have merged together again. The workbook title bar disappeared, and its title has merged with the application title again. Just remember that even though they now look like they've been merged together, the spreadsheet or workbook is still a separate window inside the Excel program. You've heard and will hear the terms spreadsheet, worksheet, workbook, and file throughout this lesson. These may seem confusing or interchangeable, so before we go any further, let's clarify the definitions. The word spreadsheet is a rather generic term for this type of application program. It is also used in describing a single worksheet or a collection of worksheets within the Excel spreadsheet program. A worksheet is also called a spreadsheet. The worksheet is the primary document you use in Excel to store and manipulate data. It consists of cells organized into columns and rows. An Excel workbook is made up of one or more worksheets. A worksheet is always considered part of an Excel workbook. For most personal spreadsheet projects, a workbook will consist of only one worksheet. However, when you are using Excel in a business situation, you are more likely to have multiple worksheets within a workbook. For example, within a corporation, you may have a separate payroll worksheet for each division. Instead of having a separate workbook for each division, you can work and save all this work under a single workbook name. When you name and save a workbook to disk, it is saved under a single file name. We'll do that in just a moment. Now that we know how the application and workbook window relate to each other a little better, let's look a little closer at moving within the workbook. As with most Windows-based applications, we are given scroll bars. These bars allow us to move to areas within the worksheet, not in our own immediate view. Suzanne, drag the little box in the right-hand scroll bar down to the bottom. Then look at the row numbers. You move down more than 35 rows. Now click on the right arrow in the bottom scroll bar. Clicking once on the arrows in either scroll bar moves your view one column or row at a time. Column B is now the first column.
Professor, I can't see my name anymore. Where did it go?
Your name is still in the worksheet. However, we did move it out of our screen view. Right now, our view consists of columns B through J and rows 20 through 38. Suzanne, click and hold your pointer on the little arrow again. Notice how fast the columns move in and out of view. Now release the mouse button. You'll also notice that the columns have extra letters in them now. Since there are more columns in the spreadsheet than letters in the alphabet, the letters are doubled up each time the count gets to Z. AA, AB, AC, and so on, up to IV. That is 256 columns. Suzanne, press your Control and Home keys to move us back to cell A1, sometimes called the home cell. Each workbook starts with 16 worksheets. The Sheet tabs on the bottom of the window let you move to these different worksheets. Suzanne, click on the worksheet labeled Sheet 2. You'll notice that there is nothing in this worksheet's cell A1. We move to another worksheet, but your name is still in worksheet number 1. Now click on the Sheet 1 tab. And there's your name again. Each sheet has the same number of rows and columns. You don't have to use all these sheets, just one will do. But if you did use them all and needed more, all you need to do is pull down the Insert menu and click on the Worksheet command.
Professor, just how big is a sheet anyway?
Well, Suzanne, there are 16,384 rows in each spreadsheet, and there are 256 columns. By the way, that's over 4 million available cells in each worksheet. If it were physically possible, laying out just one Excel worksheet page with standard width cells would cover an area longer than a football field and over 10 feet wide. With all that room, you'll probably run out of data and computer memory before you run out of space. Well, Suzanne, we've been looking at this blank worksheet long enough. Let's build a simple personal budget. We'll put in some labels first, then set up the formulas to do our calculations. And then we can put in some numbers from your checkbook and begin to plan your financial future. All right then, let's start at the top. Everyone should have cell A1 selected with your name showing in that cell. The title of our spreadsheet will be Personal Financial Budget. Please type it just like it appears on the screen, including the spelling mistakes. Without switching into edit mode, any new typing will replace the old words in this cell. When you finish, click on the check mark or press your Enter key. The cell entry is called a label. Labels are usually words that tell us what the numbers in our spreadsheet are all about. Although we could have corrected the title bar before entering it, it is almost as easy to edit it once it is in a cell. The mistake we want to correct is in cell A1, so make sure that cell is selected, then click anywhere in the formula bar. You'll notice that when we do, the status bar indicates we are in edit mode. Edit mode allows you to make changes to your typing without retyping the whole thing. Suzanne, click and drag your mouse from the F to the second N in financial. Now press your delete key to make the highlighted text disappear. This method works well when you want to delete larger words or entire phrases. You can also use the delete key to erase a few letters at a time. Go ahead and press your delete key until the remaining letters in the financial area are erased. Make sure you delete the extra space between personal and budget too. Once done, click on the check mark to enter this label back into cell A1. With A1 still selected, press your F2 key. The function key switches Excel into edit mode also. However, the editing happens right in the cell, not on the formula bar. Suzanne, use your left arrow key to move the cursor between the U and G in the misspelling of budget. With the cursor in place, type in a D. Now press your Enter key to accept the change. Remember, if you didn't want to keep the change, all you would need to do is press your Escape key or click on the Cancel button.
Professor, personal is still misspelled. What are we going to do about that?
We are going to leave that deliberate misspelling alone for now. We'll use it to illustrate another Excel feature a little later in this lesson. Most of you will have noticed by now that the words personal budget are too big for cell A1. They spill over into column B. This is called a long label, and it isn't a problem unless something in column B also wants to use the space. We'll see how to handle that later. Click in cell A1, Suzanne. For now, you should understand that this typing is all stored in cell A1, as the formula bar shows. Suzanne, click on cell B1 and look at the formula bar. That cell is empty, which is why the words from A1 were able to spill over into the display. Suzanne, use your arrow keys to move down to cell A3 and type in income. When you finish, press the Enter key twice. Type expenses in cell A5 and press the Enter key again, just once this time. We'll keep this budget simple and stick to the basic necessities. On screen now are our remaining categories: auto, clothing, food, insurance, rent, leisure, and savings. Type the expense labels in the column directly below the expenses title in column A, exactly as you see on the screen, pressing the Enter key or the down arrow after each word. This may take some time, so feel free to stop or rewind the tape to allow yourself enough time to type these labels into the spreadsheet. At the bottom of the list of expense categories, type in total expenses. We also need a balance line, so leave one blank row and then type balance in cell A15. When you finish that, click on cell B2 and type in January. Now, let's use some computer magic to add the other months. Start in cell B2 where you type January. Place the pointer on the small square in the lower right corner of the cell. The pointer will turn into a cross when you've got it. Now, click and drag your pointer across the next two cells to highlight all three. Remember to hold down the mouse button until all the cells are highlighted. When you release the mouse button, Excel types in February and March all on its own. The small cross is called the fill handle, and it attempts to continue any logical sequence such as a list of months, days, or other such things that come in predictable lists. Suzanne, press your Control and Home keys together to move us back to cell A1. We're going to spell check our labels. On the standard toolbar is a button with A, B, C, and a check mark on it. This is the spelling checker. Click on that button, Suzanne. In the spelling dialog box, we are shown what Excel believes to be a misspelled word. It gives us a suggested alternative to the misspelling in the Change To box. We are also given a list of suggested spellings in which we can choose from. The correct spelling is in the Change To box, so go ahead and click on the Change button to replace the misspelled word with the correct one. The spelling checker automatically brings us the next misspelling, which is insurance. The correct spelling is already selected for us. We could click on the Change button or simply double-click on the word within the suggestions window. Do that, Suzanne. And with a quick double-click of the mouse, we have the correct spelling in our spreadsheet. Spell checking informs us that the rest of the labels are correctly spelled, so click on the OK button to remove this warning box. This is a pretty good outline for our budget, Suzanne, so let's save this work before some computer or other unnatural disaster strikes. Suzanne, right now, if we save this budget workbook, it would be titled Book 1. That doesn't tell us much, so let's give it a proper name. Suzanne, pull down the File menu. This menu has 3 save commands to choose from. Which one should we use? Why don't we ask Excel to help us decide? Suzanne, use your down arrow key to highlight the Save option. The status line message tells us that this command will save the document, which in this case means workbook. It doesn't say anything about giving the workbook a name. Press the down arrow key again to highlight Save As. This command will save the file under a new name, file format, or password. Our file has not been saved or named yet, so this sounds like the right choice. Before we select it, move on down to Save Workspace. The status bar says this command will save changed documents and creates a workspace file. To have a changed document, we must have already saved and named it, so this option isn't appropriate. Press your up arrow key to move back up to Save As, and press your Enter key to open up the File Save As dialog box. Since this is the first time this workbook is being saved, you could also click on the Save icon on the standard toolbar. The Save As dialog box is designed to help us store our file in the correct place. Its areas display information about the 3 parts of a file storage address: the drive, the directory, and the file name. There is also an area where you can specify a different file type. For instance, if you wanted to save an Excel file in a format to be easily read by Lotus or Quattro Pro. In the lower middle of the dialog box is the Drives area. It allows you to select from the different drives on your system. It's showing the drive destination of the last file opened, which was our Excel program. Above the Drives area is the Directories area. In it, you select which directory to save your file in. The current path is displayed at the top. Excel for Windows is currently open. See how the file folders are opened up, showing the tree structure? Just to see the difference, Suzanne, double-click on the Library folder. Now look at the written out path and the directories displayed in the window. See the change? The directory is shown by the tree as a new set of folders inside the Library folder. If we save our file now, it would be saved in the library directory located within the Excel folder just as the path above this section indicates. We want to save this workbook to a blank floppy disk, so we need to change this address. Suzanne, click on the down arrow to the right of the Drives box. You will see a list of all the drives available on this computer. Each person's computer will have a different assortment of drives, directories, and files. Our system has drives A, B, C, and D. We have a brand new disk already formatted for this lesson, so just pop that floppy disk into drive A, Suzanne. Then click on A under Drives to give that new drive destination. If you are using the B drive to save your lesson files, click on B. Suzanne has no subdirectories on her brand new floppy disk, so the directories box is empty and the path shows // to indicate the root directory on that disk. Viewers, if you have subdirectories on your floppy disk, choose one of them to store your lesson file into. Now we're ready to name this file. Suzanne, click and drag across the generic file name, then type budget. Your typing will replace the other words. Remember, you can only use 8 characters for a file name. Check the Save As File Type box in the lower left corner. It should read Microsoft Excel Workbook. If it doesn't, click on the arrow next to this box and select this file type. Everyone press Enter or click on OK. You may be given a summary info dialog box on screen asking for additional information. You can fill this in or simply select the Cancel button to bypass this dialog box. As soon as we do that, the Save As process begins, and we can hear the computer writing to the A drive. Also note that the name we've chosen, budget.xls, appears on the worksheet title bar on the screen. The XLS extension was automatically added by Excel because we chose that file type. Since the file is named and saved, we can use the regular save command to save future changes to disk. Now that we have some labels in our budget spreadsheet, the next step is to write the 2 formulas suggested by those labels. A formula is simply the mathematical instruction that tells Excel how to combine numerical data in your spreadsheet. Formulas can contain numbers, text, operators, cell and range addresses, range names, functions, and other formulas. The formulas we'll use in this budget are very simple. Balance means income minus total expenses. And total expenses, obviously, is the sum of all the expenses listed here.
Professor, we don't have any numbers in the spreadsheet yet. How can we do arithmetic without numbers?
Yes, I guess that must seem pretty strange if you haven't used a spreadsheet before. But in fact, you've just touched on the real power of spreadsheet programs. We can write formulas to define the relationship between items, like adding or subtracting, without even knowing the value of those items. Then we can put in different numbers and test various models for their answers. This is called what-if analysis, and budgeting is just one of the ways you can use this tool. Suzanne, let's write a formula that will calculate the balance for January. Click in cell B15 where the answer to the formula should appear. Type an equal sign. This tells Excel that you want to start writing a formula. If you were to start typing without first using an equal sign, Excel would decide that you were entering a label instead of creating a formula. Now, Suzanne, point to cell B3 and click. And that cell address appears both in cell B15 and in the formula bar. Now type a minus sign to show that we want to subtract the second cell from the first, and then point and click on cell B13. The formula you have just written is income, which is in cell B3, minus total expenses in cell B13. This is the correct formula to calculate the balance in January, so click on the check mark to complete the entry. A 0 appears in the balance cell for January, B15, to show the result of calculating the formula. In this case, it's 0 because we haven't entered any actual income or expense numbers yet. Once a formula is entered, it is no longer displayed in the cell it was created unless you are editing the formula. We just created the simplest kind of formula, just adding or subtracting or multiplying or dividing 2 cells. Now, let's create a variation of this type of formula to add all 7 categories of expenses together in the total expense cell for January. Once again, start by selecting the cell where the answer should appear. Click on B13, January Total Expenses. Then type an equal sign to tell Excel that a formula is coming. Now type in B6 plus B7 plus B8 and so on until all the expense cells for January are listed ending with B12. Of course, the point and click technique we did for the balance formula could be used here, but it would take longer. When you have typed in the whole formula, check it carefully for typing errors. You don't want to miss any expenses, and you surely don't want to add any twice. Suzanne, our formula looks correct, so press the Enter key. Once again, we have 0 for the answer. That last formula took a lot of typing. Let's look at a shortcut that makes calculations like this one quicker and easier. The shortcut is called a sum function formula. Since all expenses are listed next to each other in a column, they can be treated as a block, and we can use the sum function to add them together. The sum function is one of many standard formulas that have been stored in Excel, but can also be entered from the keyboard. Suzanne, the sum formula that we're going to write will do the same arithmetic as the one in cell B13. Select cell C13 for the destination of this formula. Now type an equal sign, the word sum, S-U-M, and an open parentheses. Leave no spaces between the formula parts. Any function formula has 3 parts, which are all shown here. First comes the equal sign. It tells Excel that a formula is being used. Second is the name of the function, sum in this case. And finally, most functions include a list of arguments. Arguments are the variables in a function formula that tell which cells will be used in the calculations. That list of variables is always enclosed by parentheses, which we have started here. Our sum function needs a list of variables to add together. So Suzanne, click and drag your mouse from the expense cell for February auto expense, C6, to the cell for February savings, C12. As you drag down the list or block of cells, they are outlined, and the block range address is written into the formula bar. Now release the mouse button and type a close parentheses. Your edit line should show equal sum paren C6 colon C12 close paren. To complete the function, just press the Enter key. And there's another 0 indicating our formula for total expenses has been entered into the cell. Now we need to put the formulas into the other months. I'll show you 2 ways to do that. First, we'll use the fill handle to copy the January balance formula into February and March. Suzanne will start by selecting the cell to be copied, B15. Now move your mouse pointer to the square on the lower left corner of the cell until the pointer shape changes to a dark cross. Then drag across the 2 cells where the formula should be copied, C15 and D15. And release the mouse button. That's all there is to it. While it was making copies, Excel did something extra for you behind the scenes. Click in cell C15 and look in the formula bar, Suzanne. It shows the formula in column C subtracts C13 from C3. Now click in cell D15 and look at the formula bar. That formula uses cells from column D. The formula adjusted itself as it was copied to each new location. Now we'll talk about that second method that I hinted at. Suzanne, first select cell C13. When you finish that, click on the copy icon on the standard toolbar. It has the 2 little pieces of paper on it. Suzanne, click in cell D13. This is the destination of our formula. Click on the paste icon. It's the one with the little clipboard on it. Now, cell D13 has a modified copy of the sum formula from cell C13. Excel even adjusted the cell references for us so the formula works properly within this column. While we have the sum formula on the Windows clipboard, let's copy it into cell B13 to replace that old plus 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 formula. Select B13. Look at the formula bar. There is the old cell plus the cell formula. Now click on the paste button again. And there's the sum formula properly adjusted to add up the expenses in column B. It is also possible to completely move or cut information from one location to another by using the cut command. On the toolbar is the icon with the little scissors on it. You can also access the cut, copy, and paste commands from the edit menu. Both cut and copy follow the same basic steps. You first select the cells that contain the desired data, then you select either the cut or copy command. Select and copy does just that. It makes a copy of the selected data, then places the data into a temporary memory location called the clipboard. Once data is on the clipboard, you use the paste command to paste it into a new location or locations in the workbook. Cut works the same way. You select the cell or cells containing the desired data, then select the command. The difference between cut and copy is simple. Copy produces an exact copy of the selected data, whereas cut totally removes the data from the original location. It too stores its data on the clipboard. The clipboard can hold only one copy of cut or copy information in its memory at any given time. Newly cut or copied data replaces the existing data on the clipboard. You use the paste command to paste the cut data into the workbook as you would for copied data. Before we go much further, let's save to disk the new changes to our spreadsheet. We can use the File Save icon because we already saved the file a while ago and gave it a name. Go ahead and click on that icon, Suzanne. Remember, you can also pull down the File menu and select the Save command from that menu. We now have all the necessary ingredients to do a successful what-if analysis. Before we do that, let's look at a few more basic spreadsheet skills. Suzanne, I think the page will be easier to read if we do a few formatting tasks. In general, formatting refers to the controls you have over the appearance of your spreadsheet. This includes type style and size, lines and borders, column and row height and width, and other visual features that make your spreadsheet more understandable. Suzanne moved the mouse pointer to the column headers area. Now place your pointer on the line between the A and B column. When you get there, the pointer will turn to a line with double arrows. Good! Now double-click your mouse button. The column width automatically adjusted so that both the long titles now fit within column A. That made the column wider like we needed, but now we have more room than necessary for the individual expense labels. I think if each of the expense categories were indented, they would be easier to read, so let's do that. Click on the B at the top of column B. That should highlight that whole column. Now click on the Insert menu and select Columns. Isn't that easy? There's a new column B. We can also delete a column by pulling down the Edit menu and clicking on the Delete command. Now click and drag down from cell A6 to A12 to highlight the list of expenses. We'll move this list into the new column to indent it. Suzanne, click on the Scissors button on the toolbar. There's a shortcut. You only need to click on the top cell to show where you want to move the whole block. So click on B6, then click on the paste icon. Now let's make column A a little smaller so the indent isn't so deep. Place your pointer on the line between the A and B column again. Once there, click and drag the column divider to the left until the left side of the formula bar reads Width 5.0. We can also adjust rows using these methods. Click on the number 13 of the row headers along the left side of the worksheet. That highlights the entire row. Now pull down the Insert menu and click on the Row command. I'm not sure I like the extra row, so let's get rid of it. Make sure the row is selected, then pull down the Edit menu. We have a few choices here. We could undo the insert by clicking on the Undo command or the Undo button on the standard toolbar. However, if you had done some other command in between, we couldn't use it to remove the row. Another way would be selecting the Delete key without the Edit menu open. That would remove the row. But with the menu open, just press D to activate the Delete command.
Professor, what effect will adding or deleting columns have on my formulas?
Each time a row or column is inserted or deleted, Excel adjusts the formulas in the spreadsheet to accommodate those changes. Click in cell D13. The formula may not look exactly the same, but it works as it was originally intended. It still adds all the February expenses together. Now, let's format this worksheet's labels to make them stand out a little better. Click on cell A1, Suzanne. Then click on the boldface button on the formatting toolbar. It has a big B on it. There, our title is now bold-faced.
Professor, I'd like to make the months bold and the words income and expenses as well. Do I have to do each one separately?
No, you don't, Suzanne. You format many cells at one time, and here's how. Drag across the months to select that block, then hold the Control key and click on A3 for income, A5 for expenses, A13 for total expenses, and A15 for the balance label. Once you have those cells selected, simply click on the bold button again to boldface all these cells at once. Looks pretty good. Now click and drag across cells A1 to E1. Let's make this title a little bigger. Pull down the Format menu and select the Cells command. The dialog box that appears gives us a number of format option tabs to choose from. Click on the Font tab, Suzanne. Within this selection of options, move your pointer to the font size window and select the font size of 20 points. Once done, click on the Alignment tab. Now select the Center Across Selection option in the horizontal section of this dialog box. This option will center the title across cells A1 to E1. With that done, click on the OK button. The title is a little too large for this row, so let's adjust its height. Suzanne, move your pointer to the row divider line between rows 1 and 2, then click and move the mouse. Release the mouse button when the left side of the formula bar reads 24.00 in height. That looks a lot better. I've only shown you a few of this program's many formatting options, and as you can see from these examples, there are many ways to apply them. Before going any further, click on the Save icon to quickly save these changes to disk. Now we're ready to do some budget work and what-if analysis. We'll start with your monthly salary of $1,500, so click on cell C3 and type 1500. Don't type a $sign or any commas. When you finish, press Enter until you reach the cell for auto expense. Suzanne, it looks like our formulas are working. With $1,500 income and no expenses, we have a balance of $1,500 in cell C15. Too bad that won't last. Well, here goes all the money. Enter $300 for auto expenses, then move down a cell and enter $200 for clothing. Now enter $150 for food. There is no insurance expenses for January, so leave that cell empty. Our rent for the month is $500, so enter that amount in cell C10 and press Enter. Now let's see what the balance is. Our total expenses so far add up to $1,150, and the balance is $350. We still need to budget for leisure activities and put something into savings for a rainy day or maybe a nice vacation. Let's enter $125 for leisure activities. That leaves us $225 to place into our savings account. With that done, we've allocated all your income, leaving a balance of $0 in the January budget. Suzanne, most expenses will be the same from month to month. So let's copy these numbers over into February and March. We can use the copy and paste commands to do this, but the fill handle will accomplish the same thing and do it quicker. Suzanne, click and drag your pointer from C3 to C12 to mark the range for the numbers already entered. Now position your mouse over the little box at the lower right corner of that range so the pointer changes to a black plus sign. Now click and drag across the February and March columns. See how the outline adds each column as you move the mouse? When you release the mouse button, instant typing. Suzanne, click on the down arrow of the scroll bar to bring our entries up a little on screen. Now, Suzanne, we're really ready to do some what-if analysis to complete our budget. Click on D9 to select February's insurance expense and type in $200 to show your auto insurance. Press Enter, and
Oh no, I have a negative balance.
not to worry, Suzanne, we can fix that, and this is where what-if analysis comes in handy. Since we have already entered formulas, we play around with the other monthly expenses until we have a zero balance again. Select cell D7. Now let's see what happens if we change the clothing budget to $50 for February and reduce our leisure budget to $75. There, that balances again. Of course, you can try out other what-if scenarios, such as reducing the amount of money put into savings instead of leisure. Feel free to experiment with the budget after this lesson. Right now, let's do another save, then print this spreadsheet. Click on the Save icon again. Although you can keep your work on disk, it is sometimes helpful and even necessary to print out your work. To do this, you'll need a printer or access to one. Suzanne, pull down the File menu and choose Print. This dialog box gives us access to everything needed in printing a spreadsheet. At the top of this box, we are shown which printer is currently connected and active. Suzanne will be using an HP LaserJet 2. To change printers, you need to click on the Printer Setup button. All the printers or printer drivers that have been selected in Windows will appear in this window. The Setup button on the right will give us more control over how each printer prints a spreadsheet. The HP printer is already selected here, so click on Cancel to close the dialog box, Suzanne. The Print What area is asking us what we want to print. A selection is only part of a worksheet, such as a block of cells. The selected sheet option allows us to print one or more worksheets within the workbook. Selecting the entire workbook will tell Excel to print every sheet in the workbook even if they are empty. We only want to print the selected worksheet, which is the worksheet you currently have on screen, so leave that option selected. We only want one copy of this worksheet, so leave the Copies box alone. We'll also leave the page range option on the default of All. One of the most useful options to use before printing is Print Preview. We can access this option in this dialog box through the File menu or by clicking on the Print Preview button on the standard toolbar. Suzanne, click on the Print Preview button within this dialog box. Immediately you have a screen view of the worksheet. The buttons at the top of the preview screen give us control over the printed appearance of the page. For example, a click on the Margins button shows the margin set by default. Suzanne, why not drag the top margin down a little to center the spreadsheet on the page? Move your pointer to the second horizontal dotted line till it turns into that familiar two-sided arrow. Then drag it down to the center of the page. In a minute, I'll show you another trick for adjusting the side margins. The Setup button opens the Page Setup dialog box with several different tabs to activate. We first see the page setup. The defaults are Portrait Orientation, at 100% size, on 8.5 by 11-inch paper. Sounds right to me. But remember, there will be times when wider spreadsheets will fit much better on the Landscape Orientation. Click on the Margins tab, then click the box for Center on Page horizontally. That will really make things look nicer. There are many more options to choose from within this dialog box. Feel free to come back and experiment applying them after this lesson. For example, the last tab, Sheet, lets you set things like whether you want the grid lines to show, whether the row and column headers should print, and so forth. For now, click on OK to horizontally center the spreadsheet. Well, it seems generally okay, but it's hard to tell in this small print. We need a close-up. Did you notice that the mouse pointer looks like a magnifying glass when it is on the spreadsheet? Click once, Suzanne. Now remember, this size change is just for our preview. This doesn't mean that our spreadsheet will print any bigger. It just lets us check the details before deciding it's time to print. This looks okay, Suzanne. Click on the print button here to send our budget to the printer. And in a few seconds, we will have a hard copy of the budget in our hands. With that done, we have one more topic to cover. As I promised at the beginning of this lesson, we are going to learn how to create a chart. Suzanne and I will use the same version of Excel within Windows 95 just to give you an idea of how this program looks in this version of Windows. Don't worry, you still should be able to follow along even if you don't have Windows 95 installed. For this section, you'll need a new spreadsheet file open on screen. With a new spreadsheet open, enter these labels and numbers to create a simpler budget. Now, let's get started. First, move the mouse pointer to the View menu and click the left mouse button. Then click on Toolbars and click once on the little box next to Chart and select OK. The Chart toolbar now appears to the right of your screen. Now, click the left mouse button and hold it down on Rent. While you're holding down the mouse button, move the mouse pointer across the words and numbers. You'll see a dark background appear. We call this highlighting, and this tells the computer you want to use these specific words and numbers. When you've completely highlighted the expenses, release the mouse button. Then move the mouse pointer over the little arrow next to the default chart icon in our new chart toolbar and click the left mouse button once. Notice the mouse arrow looks different now, like the chart button. Next, click the mouse on the Sheet 2 tab at the bottom of your screen and simply move the little chart button to the upper left corner. Now click the left mouse button once and hold it down again. Pull the mouse down and to the right. Notice the outline of a box. This tells us the size our chart will be. Pull it all the way down to the bottom right corner. Release the mouse button. And there you are, the monthly expenses in chart form. Double-click the mouse on the chart, then click once on the right mouse button and click on Chart Type to bring up this dialog box. Click on the pie chart. Then click on the 3D button to make your chart look three-dimensional. And select OK. Looks good. Let's add labels to the chart. Again, click the right mouse button on the chart and click Format Data Series. Click the Data Labels tab and click in the box next to Show Label and Percent and select OK. Now we have a chart showing what percent of your income goes to each expense. Well, Suzanne, I can see you're ready to get back to planning your budget. Thanks for helping with this lesson. And remember, there's so much more you can learn from me, the Video Professor.